If you have ever looked at your Pinterest analytics and thought to yourself, why will these pins not move past impressions? Or why are people not clicking on my pins? Blah, blah, blah. There is likely an answer to it, and it's not likely going to be obvious at first. Now, it could be because it's bad pin design, it could be bad copywriting, it could be lack of keywords, it could be lack of urgency. There's so many reasons why people may not click on a Pinterest pin. Today's video, I'm going to walk you through the different jobs of Pinterest pins and how to employ these into your own Pinterest marketing strategy. That way, hopefully, you can start to gain more reach, gain more engagement, and ultimately gain more traffic. Now, Pinterest is different in that it is not necessarily a post and immediate engagement type platform. People are not going to immediately click on your pins. Even after weeks, some of your pins could sit at 0 impressions or impressions and no clicks, no saves. It's totally normal. But once you understand the different jobs of Pinterest pins on an inside of your strategy, you can start to really tailor your strategy more directly towards those different things. So I'm going to walk you through the 3 types of content that I most commonly recommend and most commonly see in Pinterest marketing strategies, so you can identify them in your analytics, but also build your Pinterest strategy around those. Hi, my name is Heather, and I am your leader here. I'm also a Pinterest educator, and I have an agency and a membership group where I am testing and talking about and employing these things that we talk about here on the channel all the time. Now, in my role as a consultant, and one of the roles that I do outside of this whole thing is I do a lot of audits on Pinterest accounts that have a lot of data. And these 3 types of content are the most common pieces of content that I see across Pinterest strategies, which is why we're going to talk about it today. So let's first talk about the problem that most people encounter, and that problem is really simple. Most Pinterest marketers choose one metric and they only care about that one. It could be pin clicks, it could be saves, it could be outbound clicks, it could be impressions. It doesn't really matter. Pick one and stick to your lane. That's their philosophy. Now, it is totally understandable if you've chosen one metric and you panic when your pins don't perform according to that metric. Not every pin is meant to drive traffic, and that is really what we're going to break down today. So Pinterest, again, is not a post and react platform like Instagram or TikTok or whatever. It is browse, save, and come back later. Those are the actions that most people take. Not every pin should be judged based on the same exact metric. Okay? So let's talk about the 3 types of Pinterest content before we get any further in. Number 1, the first type of Pinterest content is discovery content. This is the kind of content that is served and usually disseminated widely. It will have high impressions, it might have moderate engagement, but you might see lower outbound clicks. These types of pins historically have been pins that you couldn't leave the platform on, like video pins historically and idea pins. Okay, that's in the past. Looking forward now, we're looking at types of content. We're looking at the format of the content. It is meant to attract attention, but not necessarily meant to drive click. Depending on the season, this content could be seasonal. It could be evergreen as well, but oftentimes we see this happening the most in seasons of content. Now, whether your content is actually seasonal, the way that Pinterest identifies seasonal content is in like holiday, or if your audience specifically has seasons that they live by, I'm thinking like pregnant mothers moving into postpartum and then having a newborn baby, like those are seasons of life that they're moving through. Your content might also have seasons in that way, all right? So people browse content on Pinterest as they're scrolling. They see your pins, it piques their interest, but not enough to click, not enough to save, and they move on by. Now, not every piece of content should be based on impressions on whether or not it did well or not. So that's discovery content. The second type of content is planning content. This is the kind of content that people are most often going to save and come back to. Coming back to that same example of pregnant mothers, when we are pregnant, we are saving things related to pregnancy and birth and child rearing, parenting, all of that stuff. We're saving that stuff in phases. If I was a bride and I was looking to plan a wedding, I am looking at the different phases of my wedding planning and my engagement and my marriage, okay? I'm saving content in those phases. So if we're looking at planning content, you're gonna see a lot of saves, maybe not as many outbound clicks, and probably moderate impressions that go along with the saves. Or maybe high saves because it's being saved a lot and Pinterest just continues to serve it. Saves to Pinterest mean that I, as the user, trust this content and I want to see it again later, or I want to reference this again later. This could be in the form of recipes that we want to reference. This could be in the form of, that was a really pretty wedding dress and I really like that style or that cut and I want to take this somewhere and have it made or shop for this elsewhere. It could be, I really like that lamp and that light fixture. The next time I'm in a store and they sell lamps, I'm going to look for this. Okay? These are the things that people are looking for, they're thinking through, this is how they're living their lives and they're planning on the platform. So be looking at your content in the same way. How are people encountering my content? What content has the most saves? We're gonna get to the questions that you should ask later, but in essence, saves are not necessarily the end goal, but they are one of the goals. And saves are the most common in turning on the engagement algorithm for you, so your audience actually gets served more of your content. People can be impressed a pin and never actually see it. People can be impressed a pin and click on it as in a pin click and be served one or two more of your pins in their home feeds and other feeds. Or if they do and see it, pin click on it and save it, now they're gonna start seeing more of your content. I would encourage you to actually go test this out yourself on your own Pinterest account to see it in action. Okay, the third type of content is utility content. It is click-led content. This content pays the bills. For a lot of creators that monetize via ads, these are the pins that drive those views that make that money. For people who sell products, these are the pins that drive traffic to the website, whether they're buying that exact product or something else, that then converts to a sale. Utility-driven or click-led content has strong outbound clicks. It could or could not be seasonal in that lens of it's Christmas related, it's Easter, it's July 4th, whatever, or it could be season-driven as in your audience has seasons that they are going to need this. Like gardeners, for example, have seasons that they go through. Put plainly, as I'm auditing all of these food blogger accounts, what I am noticing is this theme emerging of like what I call what's for dinner content, meaning that the content that's driving the most outbound clicks is really easy outcomes to achieve. Whether it's organizing, whether it's food, whether it's beauty, fashion, whatever it is, the pins that are getting the most clicks are the easiest yeses. They are not the really complicated cookie recipes that are going to take 3 days to set in the refrigerator. No, they are cookies that you can mix up and you can put in the oven right now. And it's gonna take a total of 45 minutes from the time you started making the recipe to the time the cookies come out of the oven, okay? Fast, easy, pain-free, cheap. The yes is easy, it's an easy click. It's a yes, this is what's for dinner tonight. This is, again, the content that solves a problem and pays the bills. So now that you know what the three types of content are, impression, planning, and utility, sometimes there are going to be pins that show up across all three areas, and those are our winners. Those are our, we want to nurture these pins and continue to serve them. And this is actually a really common question I get. Heather, I have this pin, it's doing really well. How do I continue this? Or how do I repeat this? And the answer is always, let's compound it, okay? This asset is gold. This is compounding interest. Let's continue to feed the algorithm with this. So Pinterest trusts this content enough to continue serving it. People trust this content enough to save it and click on it. and they actually want more of it. They want to know exactly what it is that they're going to need in order to do the thing that you want to show them how to do, right? In order to make the chili, in order to make the cookies. Now, it's not a goal to chase pins that are going to be in all three, but obviously we can build a system that helps to produce content in all three categories: planning, the discovery, and the utility content. Now, let's just talk briefly about how we're going to analyze this content, but before we can talk about how to analyze it, you need to know how to find it, and that is where I'm going to show you how. Okay, now that you know how to find your content, let's talk about how to analyze it so you can start to notice the patterns, the things that I see when I'm analyzing and auditing these Pinterest accounts. Number one, which pins are showing up with high impressions? That's where we want to start. Which pins are bringing in the impressions, and then we want to analyze those by the other reports that we pulled. We want to look at things that are comparable to each other. So which pins have high impressions, and let's look at the pin click report. Do the pins that have high impressions lead to pin clicks? Then let's look at pin clicks versus saves. Then let's look at pin clicks versus outbound clicks. And then let's do the same with the other reports. So let's look at saves versus outbound clicks and pin clicks versus outbound clicks. Okay, we want to compare all of these reports together to see which ones are feeding all the way through, because these can start to show you patterns in topics, in design, in keywords, in boards that you maybe need to create more of, or maybe you are doing really well in and you just need to continue doubling down. So we've looked at these reports. Now we're going to ask these questions. Number one, what is Pinterest pushing? Okay, that's the impressions report. Number two, what do people trust enough to save to their boards? And number three, what do people click on to go to my website? I want you to look at those reports and ask those three questions. You don't need perfect data. You just need consistency and a pattern recognition here. Now, we're gonna actually turn this into Pinterest strategy, right? Because that's what we ultimately are here to do. So number one, a balanced strategy looks like having discovery content for visibility, planning content for trust, and utility or click content for traffic. So looking at your content that gets clicked the most often in November, you might actually back up and look at September and see what was getting the most saves. Are you with me? This is why we want to download this data and we want to look at it month after month. That way we can keep an eye on what's performing now and what's going to bring traffic later. Okay? One quick little insight from all the audits that I've been doing in the last year. Number one, the content that performs the best this month is generally saved months ago, which leans into this whole aspect of Pinterest being a platform that people save on and come back to later. Pinterest is a planning platform. Let's talk about what to do if you find pins that are doing really well in saves and outbound clicks. Number one, if it earns a click, expand it. If it earns a save, expand it. What do I mean by expand it? I mean, make more of them. I mean, go look at your Pinterest boards and see what other coverage you can provide in the form of boards and content. If one piece of content is doing really well, let's say you have a pin that's chili, it's doing really well, and you don't actually have a board that's directly about chili recipes, add that board. That's expanding it, doubling down on it. Let's get more reach, let's use more keywords, let's use more trends, and let's get more people in front of that content. Now, if it earns impressions, let's continue to watch it, feed the system. Let's continue to make pins for it in impressions, saves, and outbound clicks. This type of content is going to vary. Obviously, this might be a question that you have. And if it is a question about like design specifically, let me know in the comments down below, and perhaps I can add another video here to the channel about how to design for these three phases. But all in all, what I want you to do is understand that not every pin should do the same job, and you should be working inside of your strategy to create Pinterest pins that generate saves. Let me just give you a few examples here really quick before I let you go, because I know this is going to be a question. Types of pins that are impression driven can be any pin format that you make. Generally, there's a lot lower of like a demand for people to click on it right now. So it could be like, I don't know, like 3 ways to paint your garage. Who cares? It's not one specific way, it's 3 different ways, and that's not important to me right now because I'm not painting my garage right now. The next thing that you need to know is saves. Saved content could be infographics, it could be pins with strong calls to action like save for later, etc. And outbound click content is things that are high intention, like we want to give them the answer right now. So again, I know this doesn't cover all of the examples. Let me know in the comments down below if you do want a specific example on this, and I can try to make a video for you. If you need more Pinterest marketing strategy in the meantime, head on over here and watch these videos, and I'll see you there.